So we're going to have a go at abdominal breathing. So breathing, of course, is one of the most important things in Tai Chi. The Qi is made in the body by the food that we eat, which is then combined with the breath, the oxygen in the breath that we breathe. But as we know from even in various things in the West, deep breathing has a calming effect on the nervous system. It changes the brainwaves as well, and just has a lot of very healing effects. So, abdominal breathing. So generally, most people, as we get older, young children, up until the age of 4 really, that's when it begins to change. So young babies will actually naturally be breathing into their abdomen. As we get older, as various things happen in our life, our breath actually becomes shallower and shallower, and a lot of people breathe into their chest. And as I know I've said at other times, essentially in the teachings, the ancients tell us, and you know from your own experience really, that the shallower the breath, when it actually gets to the point of throat breathing, kind of you're talking about really the death rattle, and so you're very close to death. So if we can actually deepen our breathing, we can really help to maintain our health. So let's have a little look at what we're going to try and do to help that. So what we're going to do first of all is be seated in our normal way with our feet firmly on the floor, shoulders width apart. Support your back. So if you need to actually put something behind you, then do that, because you're actually trying to sit on your sitting bones and straighten, sort of as if you're standing in a stance really, so tucking the tailbone under. And the other thing that we're going to do, which is something that I sort of talk about as one of the little reminders, is softening the chest by imagining we've got a little bird under each arm. And by doing that, it actually then begins to just very gently, it softens the chest, which means that we're able to breathe into the lower abdomen. So what we're going to try and do is breathe so that there is movement in the lower abdomen and there is not movement in the chest. Okay, so this actually takes quite a lot of practice, but that's the whole point of doing this, because often we do the relaxation at the end of the session. It's sort of too late in the day really to actually really go into great detail with any of this. So it does take practice, but the more you practice, so really you need to be practicing this every day. You only need to do sort of about between 8 and 10 minutes a day, but the more you practice it, the easier it is to actually slip back into it once you've actually trained your body, or reminded your body, because as I say, this is what you actually were doing when you were young. So the way to try and do this, so we're going to try and deepen our breathing. So what I'm going to do, so I'm trying to explain it all before we start. So for each breath, as we breathe in, we're going to try and build it up to a count of 4. We're then going to have, I'm going to say hold your breath, but it isn't really holding your breath, because there is a natural gap that comes between each breath, and so it's allowing that natural gap to be an actual pause between breaths of 2 beats, 2 seconds. Then we're going to breathe out for the 4 again, and then hold for the 2, breathe in. Now, as you develop this, if you do this actually every day, what you can actually do is actually see if you can actually add to the count, and this is certainly something that I was sort of taught to do, and so eventually you build it up to 9. You can count up to 9, and that's when you've got really soft, deep breathing, but it's very, very soft and gentle and fine, a fine breath. There's no gasping or anything, but it's sort of slow. You build that up over time. So what we're going to do to try and help ourselves is put our hands on the lower dantian, so just below the navel, and then just connect with your breath, and I will count. So we're trying to go as we breathe in, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2. So the 1 and 2 is the gap. So breathing in, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, hold 2, then out 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, holding 2. And really see if you can actually, as you breathe in, following your breath, and actually feel your abdomen rise into your hand. So if you find that it's difficult to breathe one way or the other, so sometimes it's easier to breathe in. Some people find it easier to breathe in than to breathe out. If you find it harder to breathe out, as you breathe in, just as you come to the end of the breath, just hold it just for an extra beat, and then it means that when you breathe out, you actually want to breathe out. It creates that kind of extra, almost like a vacuum effect, where you want to breathe out, so you'll be able to breathe out more deeply. The opposite, if you find it easier to breathe out, then just a little bit of that extra pressure at the end, just a tiny bit of pressure, just to breathe out that little bit more than you'd naturally want to do. And then you'll breathe in more easily. So following the breath, becoming aware of the breath, so breathing in through the nose. Following the breath as it goes up through the nostrils, down the throat, through the chest, but without rising the chest or raising the chest, and into the lower dantian. And then it rises into your hands. And you can breathe out through your mouth. Just a breath as though you're just gently blowing through a straw. So again, keeping in your mind this count of 4. So the breath is even, try and keep the breath even. So as you're breathing out through the mouth, imagine you're just blowing onto a candle flame, and the breath is so soft that the flame barely flickers. That's the kind of thing you're trying to do, so there's no sudden rush of air out of the body. We're going to add something extra in, and so as you breathe out with your hands, just gently press on the lower dantian, so just gently pressing, so you're pressing the air out. Again, still as gentle as before with the breath, so the breath doesn't become more forceful. And then release, and allow the hands to rise with the in-breath. So pressing as you breathe out. releasing as you breathe in. Just do that a few times. Remembering to have that count of 2 as a gap between each of the breaths. Now, if you want to sort of add this into a meditation and a healing kind of meditation, what you can also do, once you become more proficient at it, so don't kind of rush this, but I'll just talk you through it for later, is when you're actually pressing as you breathe out, just in your mind imagine that all of the toxic energy, all of the stale chi is being pressed and leaving the body as you're breathing out. So breathe out all of that rubbish. Do a couple of breaths like that to start with, imagining as you press that you're pressing and releasing stale chi, stagnant chi, toxins from the body. And you can visualize it if that works. See it as either grey smoke or mist, or even black oily smoke that's being breathed out and is being released. And then the next stage is to breathe in golden fresh chi. So as you breathe in and you release, you feel like a golden pearl beneath your hands, filling, so the area fills with golden chi, like a golden pearl. And then again, as you press down and breathe out, breathing out any more stale chi. Breathing in the fresh cosmic energy. And so, as you just bring your breathing back to normal, so the idea is to build that up each day and eventually see if you can actually do about 36 breaths, but 36 good breaths. Obviously you've got that mindfulness, because part of this as well is letting go of all other thoughts, and obviously concentrating on your lower dantian helps. That emptying your heart is the way that the ancients would talk about that. Empty your heart, breathe into your abdomen. And if you can do that every day, then you will begin to actually train your body into this type of breathing, and then be able to take it into your practice as well.